Welcome to Transition Clarity and Authentic Conversations. I'm so happy to have Alana Heim on my podcast today. If you were lucky enough to catch the first YouTube video with her, it's just going to be a bonus to have her on again. So let me introduce her. Alana Heim is a CPA, a PFS, a CFP, service as a Cosmic Prosperity Activator, guiding you to invigorate the energetic currents beneath your work, life, and money, so you naturally flow in the river of infinite prosperity. She uses human design, gene keys, Neo-Shamanic energy work, quantum alignment system training, emotional freedom techniques, the compassion keys, and Atlantean gifts, intuitive wisdom, and financial expertise, so you in, innerstand yourself, your relationships with money, and your prosperity flow. After working over 15 years with the public accountant industry, Alana realizes her expertise is essential to shifting humanity to create new earth prosperity systems. Alana loves to provide spiritual financial guidance as it extends beyond the physical aspects of money into the realms of love and emotional, mental, and spiritual prosperity. She knows that as the planet continues to shift at an accelerated rate, you must be centered in your heart, understanding yourself and your truth. So you're manifesting all that you're ready to receive with ease and joy. Alana is a 5 times best-selling contributing author to Abundance by Design. Discover your unique code for health, wealth, and happiness with human design. What's money got to do with it? Stop overworking and start overflowing. 25 ways to transform your life using human design, the energy of medicine solutions, and prosper by design. Alana is a 1-3 projector. She lives in Reno, Nevada with her 4-1 projector husband and their 3 children, a 5-1 projector daughter and a set of 6-2 generator twins. She invites you to request a human design chart or a Gene Keys profile at her website. And remember, you are the light of the world. Keep on shining your light. And with that, I want to invite Alana Heim to the conversation. Okay, and here she is, Alana to the call. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, lovely. I'm so glad to be here with you again.
Me too. And like we just said, our conversations go fast, deep, and if you got to replay, hit replay because that's what we do. So, as I was doing the forward to this call, amazing the accolades, the work you've done, the writings and the accomplishments. And I knew when I met you through Karen Curry Parker in Quantum Alignment for Human Design that you're someone I wanted in my life.
Mm.
And now I know why. Your accolades just keep growing. So, anything you want to just kind of start with the audience? We're not, and I'm going to just say we never know where these calls are going to go, especially when you and I get together because we can go so many places so fast. So, what do you
Yeah.
want to say?
Well, the biggest piece for me is my background is the financial industry. And so we get tied up in money, and yet I love the aspect of prosperity and that everything is here for us to tap into this greater potential of our being. So within prosperity, yes, there's money. And most of the time, people are excited to work on their money relationship or these dynamics to help them have more. And I'm just seeing where the world's going. And there's this part of me that knows that we are all so powerful. Like, what if we just ask for the thing we want, like let's just like skip sometimes. Let's jump ahead. And I'm not a manifesting generator type, but yet I can feel that dance because, my parents, I have parents who have conditioned me that way. And but I get in the quantum field, we can time bend, we can skip, we can, right? Like what's the shortest point? Well, let's just have them touch. So if there's that thing in life that's calling, why not have it show up? And sometimes we get caught up in, I need the money to get there. But yet it can show up in so many infinite possible ways. And yet we limit ourselves to, no, this is the only way I want spirit to bring it to me. It has to be this way. And yet that's where we get disappointed because it doesn't work that way. And I don't know, there's just so many opportunities out there. And so why not start playing and having new experiences? And that's what we're dancing in, right? We don't know where this conversation is going to go, but we're on the path, we're open, we're willing, we're excited.
Yeah.
That's life, right? It's just like, how often do we actually get in our car and not know where we're going? Never. Like now we have GPS on our phone. We're constantly like plugging it in. We don't even just like try to get lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we feel like that's scary, and yet it can also be exciting. And so which path or which part of yourself do you want to tap into? And I feel like I don't know, there's a lot of these new experiences that are here to show up. And if you trust in prosperity, you already know that greatness is at the end waiting for you. You don't have to be afraid of it.
Okay, I love how this conversation's opened because, like we said, where do you want to take this, right? Um, I was always the person, get in my car and see where it drives me.
Ooh.
I'm a manifesting generator, right? I'm like, let's explore, let's figure it out. Keep me in a classroom, forget it. There's a whole world to explore. Also, and I love how you said that dance because before I knew human design and gene keys, I didn't realize I had so many of you guys projectors in my life, letting me have the freedom to drive
Mm.
because they're in the passenger seat navigating. And I have so many friends. I'm like, turn off the GPS, and they're like, well, and I go, you're gonna get lost anyways. It's okay because
Mm.
they're not listening to the GPS anyways because they think they know where they're going, and then they get lost, and then it recalculates, right? And so this is what's so important about prosperity because that was the message I got this morning. Stop thinking it's coming where you think it is. Open up to all possibilities. And when I was doing my little tapping meditation this morning, I was like saying prosperity on all levels. So, financial, health, relationships, just abundance in every aspect,
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
and then I also come back to the financial. Um, when the world is getting crazy, when people are having to put deposits down to put an application to get a rental, they don't get that money back. Somewhere it's upwards of $500 when you're barely getting the rent together. How are you going to come up with the extra $500 that you won't get back? It's the application fee. And that, how do they get credit if they can't build any? And I love how you say, look in a different direction. Those systems were there for a time, those don't go forward.
And we're on that cusp of, in human design, we know everything's transitioning from the cross of planning, which is
Yeah.
my cross, to you're the cross
The
of the
rising
sleeping,
phoenix.
yeah, sleeping phoenix. So it's like, yeah. So it's beautiful because those systems have been here for 400 years. So guess what? If that's all you know, that's your GPS.
Yeah.
That's your everyday comfort. You get in your car and you know that the bank is there and the ATM's here and you can get online and access your money and you can do these
Yeah.
things. And yet it's all meant to change
Yeah.
in some beautiful way, right? Not a scary way, but what we think about, we create. The energy that we put into it starts to make it so. And I'm loving right now that my daughter's actually 15 and a half. So she's got her learner's permit for driving. And we're actually like, she's like, I want to drive. Where do you want to go? I don't know. And we actually get to just drive
Yeah.
and take these different paths. And maybe I take her into a different part of town, or we go even roads that I haven't driven in years
Yeah.
or I've never been on. And it's like, oh, well, let's just figure out. And I don't know, it's kind of hard to get lost when I've lived in Reno, Nevada for 25 years, or you know what I mean? It's like there's only so many roads that are kind of new, but you'll know how to connect. But yet the adventure lies in who's going to be on the road with you,
Yeah.
because you never know what they're going to be doing,
Yeah.
and helping her to see and she even took a driver's course, like where
Driver's ed.
they got to,
Yeah.
but different, because they actually got to learn how to be in, let's say, on a wet road and maybe slide
Oh,
and have the
nice.
back end go out. And so what they tell you is expect the unexpected,
Yeah.
which is exactly what each of us as humans need to open ourselves
Yeah.
as we're heading down these roads. You don't know if a truck's going to pull out in front of you, but you
Yeah.
have to be ready. You have to be alert. You have to be present. It's the same thing with the changes we're navigating in the world right now.
Yeah.
Is you have to be present, and you have to notice in your body whatever intuition is coming through. If you're sensing something or smelling or tasting or seeing or just knowing, you have to listen to it, because everything's going to try and derail you. Everything's going to try and scare you that, oh no, those systems are leaving. Now what do I do?
Well,
Who do I give my power to? You
and I
know?
love how you brought up the driving analogy because as a professional driver, we were taught it's not you and your bus. It's the idiot that doesn't realize you haven't seen him for 100 yards that's going to slam his brakes on because he cuts you off. You don't stop that fast. And so it's being in that presence of, um, and I love how Gary Zukav always says it's the now, right? It's the presence of the now because nothing else is happening,
You're in this moment,
right? And
right?
I love how you started with the dance because the projectors of the world, whether they know they're doing it or not, whether they know human design or not, they're holding the grid for the rest of us to come and play and dance and do whatever. And you go, okay, you're going into a waltz. Okay, well, what about a two step or what? And you're like, oh yeah, yeah. Well, where do I fall? It's okay, I got you,
Mm.
right? And the one thing I realized with some of my projector friends is they forget even when they're sitting on the couch, presumably doing nothing, they're still holding the grid. They're constantly on. Where, like in my case, a manifesting generator, I wondered why I was here for most of my life until I found human design. And I'm like, oh, I'm here to wake up the world. I am here to be that rising phoenix to say, here's the light, choose to come through or not. The ones who are awake and want to come through, they're going to find us. The ones who don't will be ready when you are. And
Yeah.
that's been a huge thing for me because I'm like, well, why don't you get it? Like, come on. And I'm pulling people. And they're like, stop it. And I was like, oh, you're not ready to come. And I even had an interesting conversation yesterday that kind of took me back because if you call me and say you want an animal reading, that's fine for your animal. Don't call me about Sally, your friend down the road. Well, her animal's doing this. You know what I woke up with this morning? That's another form of gossip. We don't
Mm.
do that anymore.
Right. And it's similar in, let's just say, accessing your records, your Akashic records, like you're meant to access yours and not meant to access others. And if you're entangled, you can know your part in it, but right? Like we don't need to know their work, their story. That's their journey.
Yeah.
Those are the questions for them to ask.
And
And that's really all we can do is take this responsibility for ourselves and recognize, okay, if this other animal, there's something happening and I'm being impacted, why is this
yeah,
bothering me? Not so much that they have the problem and they need to fix it, or I'm pointing it out and I'm judging it, but if
yeah,
it's something that we're holding on to, like clearly there's something mirroring for me to work on myself so that I don't even have to bring them into it, because it's not about them. It's about each of us. It's about us. We're all in our own movie. Our movies cross over, and you can start to see. And I'm just going to seed. This is why I think people are also afraid, and even in the human design world, of moving into your cross, which
oh, yeah,
is more individual energy,
yeah.
right? Moving from the tribe and logic and moving into what the 3420, the 55, those are individual circuitry, and then the 59 with the tribal. And
Call me.
it's yeah, and it's this part of you that the more that you know you, the more you shine your light, the
Well,
more
I
you
know.
be you, versus you're not going to be this cave woman that's going to be like running around trying to destroy everyone. It's like
Yeah.
you're here to shine for who you be, and then you help inspire others to be the light in their own unique way.
Well, and then just to add on to more pressure that I put on myself that I didn't know, add in the freedom. I have the freedom gate.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course
55.
I have the freedom gate. Like why? Why do I need all this individuality and all this power and all this forward thinking to be on my own,
But
right?
you're never alone.
I know I'm never
we're
alone, but
we're all one, and it's the freedom
yeah,
to be and be with spirit and be
yeah.
connected, be to all that is, you know what I mean? It's like so many shifts in perspective that we're here to learn, because what does freedom even look like? And
And it's different for everybody.
yes, and sometimes that, when it comes to, let's just say, prosperity, people tie it to money in the way of, I want financial freedom.
Yeah.
Well, you're already financially free. It's when we lock ourselves into these systems, we're actually imprisoned in the system. And we think, though, that we have freedom in the system, but really, right, it's this dance of, do you think you're locked in the system, or are you trying to exit the system? Because
Okay.
sometimes I see that too, where it's like people who have exited the systems, suddenly they're free, right? They're not locked into how they have to do money. They get to do it their way. And so very different, because what does freedom look like? And only you will know what that means for you. But if you just blanket say, I want financial freedom, because that's what everybody's saying, you got to go deeper. You got to go inward to say, what does this represent? And how do I want to live this?
So what would you say to somebody who, and we started the conversation by freedom in all areas, abundance in all areas, but have found themselves pulled back into the cage, not understanding the to move forward to or has basically lost the light to find the path.
So there's a couple different pieces, in the sense, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where are we? And if we're bombarded by being locked up in the system, physically, this is where we start to burn out, because we've been on the hamster wheel. We didn't know it. But man, have we got good at just running this hamster wheel every single day. And there's these parts, whether it is the emotional, mental, or spiritual, that's like whispering, hey, you got to get off this wheel. Physically, your health is suffering. You don't even love what you're doing. Right. And so all those same areas we talked about with abundance and prosperity, whether it is your health, your career, your relationships, right? Where do they start to break down? And usually it breaks down here. Like we're trying to be everything for everyone. And at some point, the health is always like the first indicator that it's like screaming at you, stop, get off the damn wheel. But you don't hear it because you're so indoctrinated in the system that's like, but if you get off the wheel, you're not going to be able to pay that rent or pay that deposit on that place, right? What are you going to do? And so we immediately go into the mental and all the beliefs that we have that basically say, you can't change. This is your life. You have to continue. You just have to suck it up, right? Because that's what people tell everyone. Just suck it up, just make it happen. And so you keep pushing. And for someone like you could still keep pushing, but if you're not doing what you love, like you're still going to be drained.
Yeah.
Someone like me, projector, I'm going to be burned out immediately, right? I'm going to really lose steam. And now my health is going to show up and I'm going to try and just wear that veil of I'm good. But certain energetic people who can feel my body or my energy or whatnot, they're going to go, you're not good.
You're
Like
burnt.
something's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're toast.
Well,
And
and that's a good point right there. Is that um, understanding our own bodies and where our break point is, because a projector will break a lot faster than a manifesting generator. Right? We can kind of push through a couple veils and then we totally collapse. Where you guys kind of collapse and go, I'm done. Talk to you in a few days. And
right.
then everyone in the house is going, what's wrong with mom? It's like, she's done. Right?
And you can see that if it's not the physical, sometimes it's the mental for someone, right?
Yeah.
They mentally have a breakdown
Yeah.
because they can't keep living, if you want to say, in the system, in the matrix, in this whole world that is, it just doesn't feel right. Kids can see the light and they know how things are. My twins are 10 now, and they still are in a sweet spot. They haven't quite lost it. And my son is always like, oh, why can't people see that if they do XYZ, this is going to happen? And he's a generator type, but he's just like connected and sees things. And I'm like, okay, you can't really say that. People aren't going to get it. But yet it's this knowing. They just
Yeah.
see it. And I can also feel it as we parent. How do I let him be this individual child? Because more than half his chart is individual circuitry. Like he is not here to follow the status quo. And he does have the 3955, which is that emoting channel, like individual high low, and it taps into freedom. In numerology, he's a life path 5, which is all about freedom, but discipline. And so now we're in that dance, right? Of he knows what he has the energy to do, but yet you're just a kid and you're supposed to do these things, and he doesn't want to. And yet most of us as adults, we're just on the wheel,
Yeah.
right? A kid could easily be like, Mom, why don't you just get off the hamster wheel?
Yeah.
What wheel? What do you mean I'm not on a hamster wheel, right?
Yeah.
We,
And
we
that's
can't
the
see it.
beauty of these kids coming in now. They're gorgeous, gorgeous examples of get rid of your conditioning. Life is so much easier, right? Like if you're hitting a roadblock, where is that belief or that conditioning that has put you in that roadblock? Because the roadblock doesn't need to be there.
Mhm.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
looking that prosperity is everywhere.
And it's here first
Yeah.
and
No, but
foremost.
but the main point is like, are you looking through your human eyes, or are you looking through
Mhm.
your spiritual eyes? Right?
Yeah.
Which is a total
Yes.
different peripheral,
Yes.
right?
So the mental, breakdown, mental limitations, but those can trigger the emotions or vice versa. And we're human because we can feel. We want to have experiences. That's why we're in this body, is to really have as many experiences as possible. Good, bad, right, wrong. There is none of it. It's just what is. So if you get in the car and you weren't paying attention, you didn't stop in time for that bus, right? Emotionally, later we're going to have some repressed energies that get stuck inside of us. So every time there's this experience that we don't process or we don't let move through us, it gets stuck. And so then that festers and that keeps us from connecting to our prosperity. Because ultimately, if the emotions are stuck inside and you just want to be happy, you don't even know how to be happy. You won't even let yourself be happy. You won't even let yourself feel that, because on the other side, maybe you won't let yourself feel the anger. And the anger can also show you where you're on the wrong path. Yeah. And I have the emotional channel, the 3740. The twins have the 3955. My older daughter, she has the 1949. So these are all emotional channels in human design, and we have a lot of emotional energy. And yet, if we don't process them, we hold them in and we think no one can feel them. And are you emotionally open, undefined, or do you have emotions?
I'm all emotion.
Okay. So it's like, if we don't feel, then I'm the pig pen running around the world, releasing my emotional energy, and others are picking it up. So there's great responsibility in knowing I need to own my emotions. I need to feel them. I need to honor them. And when they get loud, now that I've been working in this way on myself, I have such clarity in knowing, is this the right path for me? Is this the right person? Is this where I'm meant to go? Right? If I want to say my emotions become my own GPS system to help me navigate, am I moving closer to what I want or further away? And most of the time, we ignore them and then they stay stuck in the body. And that adds to the burnout and the exhaustion and all the other pieces.
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes down to you, or I shouldn't say everyone, me right now, trying to keep up with the tech, trying to keep up with the writing, trying to keep up with the networking, and it's like, and then life is going on, and it's just like, stop, right? Because I'm not a task person. I realize as I have a, write your tasks down, get the gratification of getting the win, one thing done, yay, right? Because for me, it's like, well, I got 10 plates going. Well, which one do I look at first? And what, well, oh, this one's dropping, this one's going. It's like, stop. They're all going fine. Write them down, check them off. Everything's good, right? And you stay present, you stay in the moment. And then you realize the wheel's going. You don't need to be on it. And I don't know if you ever played the prosperity game, the Rich Dad Poor Dad concept.
I never played it.
Oh, it's a game that's like supposedly high tech more than Monopoly, right? But even Monopoly wasn't made to be get all the houses, make people broke.
Mm-hmm.
Someone changed the rules from the original owner, right? So Rich Dad Poor Dad built the cash flow. It's called cash flow, and the principles, it's like life, right? Like you land on a square and you end up with two kids that both need braces, and you're like, my income can't support this, but somehow you get through, and it's getting out of the rat race to get your abundance. And every time I played, people have kind of commented, wow, you get out of the rat race and you're like really rich. And I'm like, yeah, it's this darn rat race. Or the hamster wheel. It's like
Mm-hmm. The
we're
systems.
we're creating, we're staying stuck, we're staying. So every time you think here's a solution, for instance, go to the bank, get a loan. and you get told no, don't think of it as defeat. Be grateful. They kicked you out of their system that doesn't work.
Yeah, it's not the bank for you, or this isn't the route for you.
Yeah.
There's a
And
better way.
open to the prosperity and abundance elsewhere. Open up the spiritual peripheral sight.
Yes. And especially I've worked a lot with real estate agents,
Okay.
and that is such a fear-based system. It's very much like the stock market. Everything's fear-based. Why? Because you constantly are like, oh, like, the ups and downs of the money, and is it going to earn, and am I going to lose? And like, it just keeps tugging at the fear rather than the trust, right? Rather than the knowing that this is the right system for me. But realtors, especially when it comes to like, we're finally evening out, if you will, in the market. It's not just a straight up trajectory, which is unsustainable, because that is not how Mother Nature works, but yet we think that's how our system should work. They have had a hard time, and people leave, people drop out because they're like, oh my gosh, the sales aren't there, or the properties aren't there, and all the fear comes in of, if I get a client, like, I have to desperately have them make the buy or the sell so that I can get paid, right? It becomes this like feast or famine kind of way of being. And yet at the same time, people will be told, you have to put in an offer. You have to do this or else it's going to be taken, right? All the scarcity tactics like come out with real estate. And this is a big purchase, right? It's not like buying a pair of shoes at the store where you're like, you're paying, especially like where we are. I mean, I think our median price is like $500,000.
Yeah.
And that's just for baseline stuff. So if you're going to drop that kind of money, right, you have real estate agents who are like vultures, like wanting you. But then you have people who say, oh, well, you'll never get what you want. You get what you'll just take, right? Take what you can. And it totally pulls us away from the whole concept of, wait a minute, if there are things that I know that I can have, I can create it and manifest it, which means maybe I find a deal synchronistically through the universe, introducing me to somebody who's like, oh, actually, I haven't put my property on the market, but I'm kind of thinking of selling. And now, boom, it all just synchronistically opens up. Maybe I was invited to make this connection. It's exactly what I'm looking for. I buy it off market. Maybe they even want to give me a note. Maybe they want to be my lender. Maybe they're like, you know what? I don't need the money up front and I don't even have to go to the bank. You know what I mean? It's like, what? You hear these stories and yet you can easily say, well, that'll never happen to me. Yeah. Why? What if it could? Right? And what if you could open yourself to allow it to show up in whatever way?
And it's interesting because my business, my old business, that's the energetic clearings that I still do now under a different name, started with realtors clearing the space so the house that they're selling would get the best dollar. They fell into the rat race of living on credit cards. The closing doesn't happen. We don't get the money till this. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, but if the house is selling, if you want to list it at 300,000, but we can get 350, you don't think my little fee's worth it?
Yeah, because this is where they love self-development and they'll spend in certain ways, but I've seen it as well where they can be very frugal in the stuff that can actually really support it, but yet they want to pinch their pennies. Yeah. And it's this part for all of us to redefine value, redefine and trust from within what feels aligned, what feels true, what feels like, yes, this is it. And you know what? Your little fee, actually, I would have paid somebody else way more. Here, let me actually, here's what I'm willing to give you. You know what I mean? Because that is what's shifting in our economy. Yeah. It has to. Just because I name a price doesn't mean it's locked in stone. Yeah. And that's the part that for every single one of us, bartering is a thing. People make up their discounts every day. They make up their prices every day. So
And,
at some point you can ask, but at some point you can also realize, what is it truly worth to you? Because when it is worth it and it feels like a deal, sure, you could jump in. But if it was worth even more and you have that more, why wouldn't you want to pay that forward and allow that to be the economy that we live in?
well, and I like that term of pay it forward because I think that's where we are at. Like when we talk about this new world of Aquarius, right? And you think about the Aquarian age of love, kindness, community, oneness. Like it feels so yummy and peaceful. And it's like, if people just, and let me just make the caveat, we're not picking on realtors, but
Mm-mm.
it's anyone. It's picking a doctor, it's picking a lawyer, it's picking a friend, it's picking a school for your kids. If it's aligned, nothing's going to stop it. If it's not aligned, take a step back and say, what's my intention with this purchase, with this school, with this whatever?
Doctor.
Yeah, like it
Yeah.
comes down to, do I want the orange or do I want the apple? What's my heart saying? Oh, I'm kind of hankering to orange. All right, have the orange. Take the little steps of every day. Do I want to wear blue jeans or black pants?
And either way,
It's perfect.
exactly. There's nothing wrong. We don't need to judge it.
Yeah.
We don't need to separate ourselves from it. We don't need to start, I don't know, putting in all this stress on ourselves
Yeah.
because it's just a choice. And maybe if you wore blue jeans, you walk by somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, I love those jeans on you. And you feel great. And you actually just spread your light to them and vice
Yeah.
versa. And that's the ripple, right? You're looking for what intention is going to create the ripple of the love that I'm here to share.
And every decision can be changed. A house is a little bit trickier, but it can be changed.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be locked into it and tied to it forever,
Yeah.
which again is another piece that I've seen where some people look at buying a house as freedom. Some look at it as prison, right? Because now you are locked to this home forever and you can't move. And we forget that the world has shifted and changed and said, hey, maybe you want to travel for 6 months and you rent it out for 6 months. And now it's paid for and you get to go where you want and you're not chained to it. But the old way was, I have this house and I
A
have to live in
30-year
it.
mortgage.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just that statement, I used to go, that like the way you say that, like, are you enjoying your house because you got a 30-year mortgage? Don't you feel like the drain?
Yeah.
Right?
And
And then I'll say to people, well, it doesn't have to be 30 years. Go refinance. Well, I can't pay more. You don't have to pay more. Just pay every other Friday. Your 30 years just went down to 15.
well,
Pay it
but
on
now,
every Friday. It just went down to 7. They're like, no. And I go, yeah.
and so what you're talking about is this paradigm shift
Hmm.
of we can look at the big picture and see it as the prison of 30 years. We can have the amortization schedule that says, here's how you have to pay it. And yet, I even have a financial program that is so freaking cool, where it ultimately is the algorithm that tells you how to make your payments on your credit cards, your mortgage, line of credit, any of it in the best, most efficient way to pay off your loans. So, yes, we think we have to keep refinancing. But guess what? Guess who makes the money off of that?
The
The
bank.
bank, because they're going to just jack up the origination fee. They're getting paid up front again. They're starting your loan all over, even if it's for 15 years and they get paid the most. But ultimately, it's like if you just pay it differently and start putting lumps at certain times, and this program will tell you, we have, I think, 19 years left on our mortgage. And guess what? We already did a refinance and I was doing the smart CPA thing, paying extra, but not in the way that this program is going to help us pay everything in 7 years, you know? And it's like,
Oh, okay.
that is life changing. That is exciting in the sense that, wait a minute, if the system, because again, you're just handed like stacks of documents when you buy a home, you have no idea what it is. But usually you just get put on auto payment. Why? Because you'll never change it and you'll stay stuck with the 30-year payment, and you will pay them, let's just say, an extra 150,000 in interest above what you pay for your home. So it's like, you're not going to try and leave the system. You're on the hamster wheel. But
Yeah.
when you start to break free and you go, wait a minute, what if I paid it differently? What if I do have extra money that comes in? And how can I pay it in such a way that I can knock this out faster?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that like a huge shift where you start to get out of these systems? But most of us don't think that there's ways out. And many times it's because we're not even looking.
Well, and it's also, we're probably taught the way our parents were taught, and their parents were taught, and no one was taught.
Right. It's not in school.
Yeah.
It's not in our education system in the US. It's not,
Yeah.
right? I
And
had to go seek to learn accounting and then go study this to even know some of these pieces. But
well, and even like, no disrespect to the accountants. They don't know it either.
exactly, because we do what we're taught.
Yeah.
Hence why I left the system and was like, I have to unlearn all of
Yeah.
this, and bringing in the emotional and the mental and the spiritual aspects that tie to the physical dynamic of money,
Yeah.
because it's all of it, right? We're always looking for the hack or the quick fix. It's not one thing, it's all of it. And guess what? You're connected to all of it.
Yeah.
So you got to go back here,
Well,
start here.
and like what we're talking about is, you're not looking for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You're saying I got an extra $80 at the end of this month. Where do I put it to the best use? Right? And that comes back to the energy of things too, right? Like, so, like what I'm finding with what I do is, houses are so confused. Before the pandemic, they were like confused in the way of like, well, maybe arguments, or kids are going off the rail and parents are trying to figure out how to get them back on the rail, and kind of thing, right? But now it's like, am I a school? Am I a job? Am I a home? Am I a play center? Am I like, what am I? And it's like, just put your zones back in, put your time back in of, how do we get this home to support us the best? How do we make every small decision of apple or orange, listening to our body and saying, well, the orange is going to do better because we have a little tickle in our throat. We need an extra pump of vitamin C. Awesome. Or, the apple might, keep the doctor away. Whatever. I know
Mhm.
it's an old patterning. So it's like bring us back to the basics, and nothing is overwhelming. Everything works out perfectly. And we're never alone because Spirit's got us. However you look at Spirit, it's got you, because we're all here. We're all doing this plan together. But for me, I'm just glad I know my purpose. It's been a hard first half of this life going, why am I here? Since I was
and
5 years old, I have asked, why am I here?
and most of us do,
Yeah.
right? Because we think we have to do rather than be.
Mm-hmm.
And more, we're here to get to the simplicity of life, the meaningful
The
pieces,
true freedom.
where I just want to sit out some aside sometimes and just barefoot in the ground, like let my chickens run around or my dog, or, stare at the mountains and the sky. And if there's clouds, and it's like, that's it. And there's so much beauty. And that's life. Like, we're just here to be a part of it and yet to witness it.
Yeah.
And we get so lost in the complications because we've over created these systems. And so, to me, the gift of your cross coming into play, we get to be reborn,
Yeah.
have this rebirthing process, and rise again to what is this reality we're co creating. and how can we have it be more beautiful and simplistic?
Mm-hmm.
And if we had these systems that we thought were there to support us, sure, they were, but they actually overcomplicated our life. You know, like
Absolutely.
I feel the overwhelm sometimes where I don't want any more new social medias. But guess why? They're going to come. They're going to come because people want to evolve, but new people want to come up with new ideas and make more money. And yet it's like I could already get a message on Instagram or Facebook or a text or in Telegram or WhatsApp. And you know what I mean? It's like, oh gosh, I don't even know what to check. And then it becomes overwhelming because I don't want to be on any of it. And
Well,
then we dance in that like, am I separating? Am I isolating? Am I not responding? And what will people think? And at the end, like, who gives a shit? You know, it's like there's so much energy that's all over and it's trying to distract you and derail you from just
being
being present here in the now.
well,
Right?
and
Because
it's
you and I, there's no text right now. There is
I know.
nothing. It's like we are in this conversation and we are just here and
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Well, and it was funny because someone asked me earlier today, "Well, can I send you? Do you want to come on the email?" I said, Do you want my honest truth?" And she goes, "Okay." And I go, "I might catch your email. I might not. I don't look at them." And she goes, "You don't look at your email?" And I go, "Nope. By the time I get through my social media posts, get through the stuff I have to do, respond to people like, like friends, like I haven't talked to in months anyways, because I'm doing it all day that I don't want to do it at night. Yeah. Email's just not on my radar. Sorry. But you can send it. I might hit grab it. I might not. And
I
so it's
prefer email, right? And that's coming from a projector who still can feel overwhelmed. But then there's times when I've been on vacation. I'm really good now of letting it be. And I have to say that even just yesterday, there was this space that I had, and I was like, I think I'm going to go back through my emails and see what else is in here in my inbox that I may have missed. And I had introductions to people
mm,
from December, which is like 5 months
ouch.
ago. And they just sat and it wasn't the time. And so what I do is trust in the divine timing.
Oh,
And
that too.
I replied and just said, you know, I trust in divine timing. I still would love to connect with you. Here's my link. Right. And a couple of people booked. But when that happens, even if it's like a potential client, and if I let it sit, I don't hold that guilt of like, oh no, did I miss this opportunity? That's fear. When I'm synchronistic and I suddenly see it and it is in my present moment and I have the time and the energy and I'm like going to reconnect, it's usually synchronistic because even that person is like, oh, this is perfect timing. Well, of course it is. But I don't feel that pressure, right? And
Yeah.
so that is something for each of us to learn. The world is going to try to control how you perceive yourself and how you perceive how you handle life. And if I'm honest, right? If you've sat in my inbox, sometimes it's like it's just there's no energy. My emotions, there's nothing to like respond to. I'm not ready. But when the time is right, I'm usually the person that it'll sit in my inbox until I circle back. And once I've handled it or done or something, I delete it and then it's gone.
Yeah.
But but
But I
if
mean, it's
it's
even this
messaging,
I know, but
yeah.
it's even this conversation because you'd pop into my head and I'm like, yeah, okay. You'd pop in again and I'm like, okay. And then I'd see a post or whatever, whatever. And then it's like, no, I want a conversation with her. Do you need get in my
And then
calendar?
and then when the time's right, it
Yeah.
works. And
Yeah.
even if you and I think in our feeble mind of it has to happen this way,
Yeah, no.
then we're both going to be disappointed and we're going to feel that the energy feels
Yeah.
pushy and you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just not going to work out. And then that's how I think most of the time people don't respond. And I very clearly can feel when people are wanting to just sell. They don't know me. They just want to send me crap and they're like, here's all about me. And I'm like, delete. Because
Yeah.
I can feel that energy of like, you're a salesperson. You don't really want to connect
Yeah.
and change the world. And what I have to say probably isn't going to relate. So that doesn't feel right.
And I am absolutely not a salesperson that I forget to even offer the offer. So If you want to connect with me, just connect. We'll have a great conversation.
But do you prefer social media? Because it sounds like you don't like emails.
Well, social media, just because I have a smartphone. Um, emails, I trip myself up on trying to find the right wording, and two sentences aren't long enough in my mind. Like, so I have some conditioning in there with emails. Um, Also, that's not my form of connection or learning.
Mm.
I can read something over and over and over, and it's going out, over, up, and over. Where a text is short, to the point, let's have a conversation, get on the conversation. You could, in that conversation, that might have been 10 or 15 emails.
Right.
I know it, I understand it, I know how to get a hold of you. I could read the email 500 times and it will go. And I even realize, like, I love reading. I'm audiobooks now
Yeah. I was going to say, do you prefer and do you have more
because
auditory?
audio can go anywhere with me. It's on my phone. I can download it, whatever. But on a beach, I still like to have a book,
Mm.
But I don't want to take 10 because then it costs me to take my luggage, right? So,
Yeah.
I like the convenience of both. Um, but yeah, I'm audio, and I'll remember you audio, like, because I remember I was in a conference. There's like 2,500 realtors, and I'm just walking through, gonna go try to find my boss, and I hear this guy talking, and I'm like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And I go up behind him, and I go, I told you you'd make it. And he turns around, and I go, hi, Tom. And he goes, Adele? I just was talking to him on the phone, helping him
Mm.
figure out a realtor, how he could figure out to get to this conference. And I spotted his voice. 2,500 people in the room.
But that's the beauty in one of your gifts, right? And so for everybody to know, what are their gifts? Uh, my twins are highly auditory, right? They have mostly individual circuitry. So it's so fascinating because they can just hear something, they pick it up, they remember. And even Hunter, he likes to play piano by ear, right? He'll hear some
Oh,
song on the
nice.
radio and he figures out how to play it. And so it's really interesting because sometimes they'll come home and they'll tell me something about school or this piece of information and I'm like, okay, that's very specific. How did you learn that? And then Hazelea, his sister, she was like, oh, well, she made a tune. She said it out loud, but she made it in a tune and she remembered it. And that's the kind of pieces that, like, if their teacher knows, or at least they know, this is how they can be successful. But if you think of, if they are to read to themselves quietly, they're not going to comprehend. And it's just like what you're saying, right? But if they hear it and now you're listening to it or you're speaking to yourself, right? And there's some kids that would read out loud and then teachers would get mad because you're too loud. But that's how they process, that's how they learn. And if you know this about yourself, right? And you'd rather listen to audiobooks, or you can't understand why you can't visually pick it up. This is
Yeah.
part of it. Everybody's different.
Well, and grateful to my parents to understand that I needed music while I read, because
Mhm.
I was the kid that never went to sleep. And so I was told, we don't care what you do, don't let your feet touch the ground. So I'd go to bed with my book, and I'd have my classical music, Baroque music playing on my little tape deck, reading my book. And then, a few nights of doing that till 1, 2 in the morning, couldn't, right? And then I'd come home, no supper, and I'd be gone. Like 5 o'clock till the next day, because I stayed up too many nights reading.
Mhm.
And I still do that. Like, I'm like, oh. But it's okay. Like, it, it
Yeah.
all it all happened. But that's interesting. Like, so do you think that's part of the hermit in your kids? Because I'm a 2 4 2. Oh, I'm a 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4. 2 4.
Yeah. And so it'll be a little different just because I really love the gene keys for kind of seeing more the conscious versus unconscious aspects and health wise and knowing the two for them comes more in that health perspective that they just need more fluidity in their spine and movement. And so it's like,
Mm.
yes, they can go inward and retreat a little bit, but what are they also doing in such a way that they're moving the energy and processing? But they're unique too because they're twins
Yeah.
and they've always been together. And we're finally at a place where they're gonna finally like separate rooms because they're getting older and
Oh, they're
they
still in the
they
same room.
yeah, and they want to, but I kind of wonder because they're still really like even though they love hate each other, they're always together. And
That's
so it's
interesting.
interesting that yes, they should need to retreat, but yet they have each other and they always have. So it's, such a different dynamic. And they more and more having friends and separating a little bit, but man, they get bored really easily and then want to be together.
So
So,
that's fascinating because um I have a family friend who had twins, and I think it was grade 2 that the teachers are like, we have to separate them into different
mm,
classrooms. And she was like, why? They said, because they have their own language. They're not speaking to anyone else.
ooh.
So they put them in different classrooms.
And my kids had always been separate in school because we wanted them to have that. And this year, they're fourth graders. This is the first year they got put together. And immediately I was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. Turns out both of their best friends were in the same class. So, how do you pull one? So, I had just put it out to the teacher like, look, if one of them needs to move, you get to make that choice. They've actually done really well.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hazel Leia is more teacher's pet. High wants to like do great, wants to be at the top. Hunter, he's the kid who's bright, who doesn't want to apply himself. And he's like, eh. But I feel like because she does well, it helps, right? And especially that's kind of one of those dynamics in school where teachers are always teaching down to the lower instead of to the upper. I feel like because she's there, it actually helps him want to strive and do better. So
Well,
it's worked out.
and I just want to go back to the music thing because we always say that the Asian, right, are more technically inclined for music. I heard the most fascinating thing the other day that says they're the most inclined to music because of their DNA,
Hmm.
because their lineage, for as far 1,000 back years as we can go, have always had music.
Hmm.
It's us that have never had music, so it's a foreign concept to us. I like that better than we stereotype them to say
Right.
they're nerds or like,
Yeah, it's their culture that brings, and if you think of many cultures, music is what you do when you're bored, or you find it, you make an instrument out of something in nature and you come
yeah,
together in community and now you dance and you sing and you laugh and you play and and you have music. And so what's interesting is for Hunter, he's created and made music himself since he was an infant, right? My husband can kind of beatbox and make sounds. Hunter would do that as
yeah.
a kid. He would go into class and everything is a drum, right? Like that's where I always have to say, okay, Hunter, this is not a drumstick, right? He will find anything and he would drum on anything and everything and be making noise in class, driving teachers crazy. Not surprising that he's got right digestion and he is left in environment, but they have right and motivation and in perspective too. So it's very right brain. He's very creative. He's very much like individuality. He's not here to fall in line. And so it's to me, it's beautiful to witness because this is who he is. This is who
So
he's here to be. Right. And if you're not going to let me have music or I'm just going to make it myself, I'm going to create it. And
I know, but you take back the music part and you got music in the math side, because you can't have math without music. It's all about the beat, the count, the whatever, right? So you got the
Yeah.
counting count, which is cool. Like, that's why we're all different, to be helping each other in our various ways, and in the unity, right? And I love that word that's coming up more and more as we move into this new world of the individuals coming as unity of the one, right? And yeah, I gotta look more into the gene. Like, I follow Richard more because he resonates with me, but I don't
Mhm.
know the sequences like I do.
So the gate two, that
Yeah.
feminine receptive energy, the city he calls unity. And so it's really interesting because
Oh,
if you think of the masculine, and yet it is the feminine that brings in those pieces, and they're paired together, you know? So
and
it's
we as a society are in the feminine for the next 20 years as we usher in this new world. It's like we're birthing this new world.
Mhm.
Some of us have been birthed, a lot more to come, and it's going to be coming in waves over the next 20 years.
And my belief, like what I really have can sense, is it's not just that we need the feminine to rise, we need the unity of the masculine and the feminine to finally come in unification. Like
Well,
it's
but it,
not happened on the planet because
yeah.
it's like Atlantean time, we were too masculine, Lemurian, we were too feminine. This is our time to finally bring the right and left brains, the masculine, the feminine together and really unify all that is. And if you think of it, it's kind of unifying too, if you want to say science and religion or spirituality, right? Everything that we've thought is so opposite, they actually connect and they tell
Well,
the same story just in a different way.
and I want to clarify, when I say the feminine doesn't mean woman and man.
Mm-hmm.
We are all feminine. We
All
are
of it.
all masculine, right? Whether we
Yeah.
want to acknowledge it or not.
Right.
And I just find, like, and just with people I've spoken with, it's like, that the males are coming home and the females aren't quite ready to retire or whatever, and they go, what am I supposed to do? And I go, have your arms open so she can fall in when she gets home. And he's like, what? Because they're still getting beaten up in the world. You're at home. You're making dinner. You're sharing your nurturance in a different way. So just, grab her when she comes home. Like, let her fall in. You're safe. You're good. You know. And it's having that compassion for everywhere, wherever one is. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's just, we could talk forever. I know. If
uh,
Oh, this conversation. How do we wrap this up? Of just love each other, be kind to each other. We're all on the journey together.
and be within. And I use the term inner stand.
Yeah.
You're not here to stand under when you learn, like what something else, like stand under what this whole understanding. So it's like the inner standing. You're here to stand within and know yourself, and whether that means you start to see where you're living on this GPS navigated life that's really just a hamster wheel, or you're recognizing that you do have some physical stuff going on in your body, or the mental and the emotional is really starting to show you the work you're here
Mm-hmm.
to move into, to release, to clear, to let go. Every single thing that's happening in life is an experience for you to grow, and it's accelerated.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening faster and faster in all of the areas of prosperity. Why? Because if you want to say, it's kind of like if you've ever put your bathing suit in one of those washers,
Oh yeah.
right? And it's like and it like dries it really quick, right? Like that's we're like the wet dog. We're like shaking off all of the lack and scarcity and fear and
Yeah.
greed and control and manipulation, all the stuff. Like we're releasing, and we're releasing it in all ways,
Yeah.
because you're meant to ignite from within that love, the true prosperity that you are, that you're everything, and it's already here. Keep going and finding your own creative way to be and shine and share.
That's awesome. That's a great way to end this. Once again, Alana Heim, Prosperity Alignment on Transition Clarity, an awesome, authentic conversation.
Thank you.
Wow, what a wonderful conversation with Alana. If you like this podcast or any others, please subscribe to Transition Clarity on YouTube and follow us. Make a comment, like us, and stay tuned for more shows. And all those show notes will be in the captions.